Okay, in this video we're going to install the Addons text editor. It's a very useful open source editor that has a plugin system where you can install all sorts of different plugins to add functionality to your text editor. Okay, so open up a web browser and go to addons.io, and if you scroll down here there is a download button. Click on that, and the download is going to be about 200 megabytes, so it'll take a little while to download. Once it's downloaded, go to your downloads folder and you'll see Addons setup and then x64 if you have a 64-bit processor. So double click on this. Once you double click on this, Addons will automatically install. There are no settings to worry about. It will just install itself. And once it's finished installing, you will see an icon down here, up here, and it'll be flashing. And if you click on that, this is Addons. Alright, so the very first thing we see, it says register as default, Addons://URI handler. We want to go ahead and do this. That means any URIs that start Addons:// are going to be handled by Addons. So yes, always. Okay, and then we see we have a welcome guide. You can explore that if you want. We're going to close that for now. Here we have another welcome screen, and we have a checkbox here that says show welcome guide when opening Addons. I uncheck that, so next time I open Addons, I won't have to see these welcome screens. And then telemetry consent. This makes Addons better. If you send, it basically allows Addons, it will automatically send usage data to Addons to help make the software better. So you can choose whichever you like here. I like to help make the product better, so I click yes. All right. And then this is Addons, and you can create a new file. You can add a project folder. You can do all sorts of fun stuff here. But one of the things we're going to do before anything else is configure Addons. So we're going to need to know about the settings. So I can go to, let's see if we go to edit, and it should be preferences here somewhere. File. There we go, settings. Okay, so the settings menu, there's a shortcut for it if you press Control, comma. So I can click on this and it opens settings, and it's just a tab like any other text file. Right? If I open up a plain text file, a new file that comes up, this is an untitled text file. I can hit Control S to save, and I could save this on my desktop, and I could say file.txt. Save, and now we see it automatically opens the directory in which the file is located, and you can access things in that directory. Over here, this is the File Explorer window pane, and then here to the right is the particular file that you are opening. So I can close that file, and I can double click on one over here and it opens it back up, and we've got the file name, etc. And you can just type in text there. Pretty standard. Now if I want to modify the settings, I can hit Control, comma. That takes me back to the settings. Now there are several settings we're going to modify, but one of the important things here is packages. Okay, so by default there's a lot of packages that are installed, and there's a core package for Addons, and then a bunch of other packages that are maintained by the core development team, and those are installed by default. And so you can see all of these packages, and these are your installed packages, and some of them you see have a settings button that you can click and modify the settings, which we're going to get into in a second. Okay. If you want to install additional packages, you can click on this install icon, and then you can search for packages and install them, and they'll have settings and stuff too, right? And additionally, you have updates. You can always check for updates with Addons, and it will also check for updates for the various packages that you have installed. Okay, so this is sort of the settings utility, but for installing additional packages, once you've installed Addons, you should also have access to a couple of commands. The Addons command should be available on your Windows command line. Okay, and so we see we do have this Addons command. So that means if I were to close Addons, so I'm just going to close this text editor, and you see I'm on the C drive in users /user, so this is my my users home folder. I can CD onto the desktop, and I'm using Windows commands here. So to list out the contents of a directory, we see here's our file.txt file. So if I wanted to open Addons I can open it in this directory. The dot means this current directory. So that's going to open Atom, and we see Atom opens up, and it automatically imports this directory, the current directory that I was in, that was my desktop, as a project folder. Okay, so you can always use Atom space dot. So that's one of the command line tools you have access to. There is another command line tool called APM, and it stands for Atom Package Manager. All right, and you can see the version. All right, so with Atom Package Manager, we can basically do everything we can from the settings panel with respect to installing packages. Okay, so this is really handy because it allows us to install a whole lot of different packages at once. So some of the packages we might want to install, I've got a list of them here. And I'll quickly go through what they do. All right, so the command is APM space and then type in install, and then these are the package names that we're going to install. This is file icons. This is going to give us custom icons for every different type of file type. Obviously it can't get every single file type, but it really gets most of them. It's impressive. The next one is the Schmod package, and that's going to allow us to right click on a file and change the file permissions. And this is best for a Linux type environment, so you can change the file permissions in Linux using the change mode command or chmod, right? The next package is tab control. That's going to allow us to change how we use the tab key to indent and unindent code. Tree view auto resize. This is going to see here. This is the tree view. This is the file browser. And this can be resized, right? But you see we've got a lot of extra space here. So in general, we want to automatically resize it to be the width of the longest item, and then that gives us the maximal space here. So that's what that package does, pretty easy. Pigments is a nice package that will allow us to, if we type in a hex code in a particular programming file, the hex codes are RGB color format, and it will show us the color that we type in, so that way you don't have to guess what the color is. The linter scans your code and checks for errors, and so there's lots of different additional linter add-ons, and then one of those is linter UI default. Okay, then we're going to have a minimap add-on, so that's going to add a minimap on the right hand side of the screen, so you can see what your file looks like in long form and jump to different parts of your file. Minimap linter, if the linter highlights some code in your main file, it'll highlight it on the minimap. So there's several of these little minimap packages that basically do the same stuff. It just shows everything that's in your normal file also on your minimap. And then these last two are very nice. Open in browser, so that allows me to right click on a file and I can select open in browser, and specifically if I'm working in HTML or something, I might just want to open that HTML document in a web browser. The other one is open in terminal, and if I right click in a particular directory and I say open terminal here, that's going to open up a terminal right in this current directory, and that's going to be extremely handy as well. Okay, so these are the basic packages that you're probably going to want to install with any Atom configuration. Okay, so we're gonna use the APM command here. We're gonna go back to the CMD, and we need to paste these in. All right, so it's not letting me paste that. Control copy. There we go. All right, so to copy and paste, I had to copy this, and then in the command line, you just right click and it will paste it in there. So if I press enter here, it's going to automatically install all of these packages for me. It'll take a second to go through. It's going to download them all and install them into Atom. Hopefully this won't take too long. Seem to be taking a little bit. So the next thing we can do is, while this is installing, we can start modifying some of the settings in Addon, some of the settings we want to fix up. Okay, so one of the first things we might want to do is we want to make sure we're using the proper line endings. So whenever you're coding in computer science, generally speaking, you're always going to want to use Linux line endings. Okay, so the Linux line ending is a line feed character, and that's it. Just one single line feed character. So that is in terms of strings. If you're using Python or something like that, that's the new line character \n. So that's what we're going to use at the end of every single one of our lines. So to do this, we need to go into Packages, and we want to search. This is actually going to be in the core settings. Let's go to a file here. So here's a file.txt. Right down here is our line ending, right? So it says CRLF. So this is a standard Windows line ending. It's a carriage return, which is a \r, and then a line feed, \n. And we want to make this a line feed. Okay, so whenever you have a file, you always want to make sure that you're using Unix style endings, and that's the line feed. So you could select CRLF or line feed. All right, and if you save the file, then it changes that. All right, so we've got the line feed endings, but that only changed it for this one particular file. What we want to do is we want to change it for any other files that we happen to create, right? So let's go into the settings again, and we're going to go to core, and there's a couple settings here we want to fix up here. So close deleted file tabs. Okay, what this does is, if I have a file up here, and if I delete the file over here, it goes ahead and closes the tab. Otherwise, normally it leaves the tab open, and that can be a little confusing sometimes. So I want to change that setting. I also want to go to the editor settings here, and we want to go to settings, editor, and scroll past end. So let's see if we can find that. Scroll past end. So what this does is, if you have a file, I'm going to open up a new file here, and file.txt, and say you have a bunch of text in here, and we can do this. When I scroll to the bottom of the text is down here. Sometimes that's not convenient. I might have a terminal down here, and I might want to be able to scroll down further and look. So what this does, this setting allows us to scroll past the end of the file. If I check that box, we come back here, and now I can actually scroll farther down, right? So the end of the file is here, but I can actually scroll that farther. All right, so scroll past end. Another one we want to do in here is show invisibles. So when you're coding, a lot of times it's important to see different characters that are invisible. Okay, so let's make a little Python file, hello.py. Okay, so this is going to be a Python file, and I can say for I in range print hello. There we go. I'll type those there. Okay, and then I might print down here, done. Okay, very simple program. Now, if we go back to settings and we check this show invisibles, what this does is we get to see all of the invisible characters. They're very light, so they don't actually get in your way. But we also see at the end here, we have two little invisible characters, right? And that's because we have the carriage return and line feed. So again, we want to make sure we just have line feed selected, and we see the carriage returns went away. And so these are the invisible characters that you normally don't see, but when you're coding, it's very, very handy to be able to see those, right? So that's one thing. Another thing is show indent guides. All right, so if we click on this, we go back over here, we can see, so if I have another indentation, if true, print true. All right, now we see the indent guide is this here. So we see where our indentation levels are. That's very important when we're coding to understand what level of indentation we're at, especially in Python. If you're coding in Python, it's very, very important to know your indentation level. All right. What other things we need? Softwrap. So if we scroll down here, Softwrap. What this does, it allows us to type in a bunch of text that wraps past the end of the line. Okay, so if we have a bunch of text here, okay, now we pass the end of the line, right? And what we want this to do is, if we don't have Softwrap, right, then that means we get this scroll bar at the bottom, and so we actually have to scroll to the right to see what's at the right. So that can get really annoying. We normally don't want to have to scroll side to side, so we're going to do a Softwrap, right? And then Softwrap hanging indent, that's going to be 2. Okay, what that does is when you do have a Softwrap, it automatically indents it 2 characters. That lets you know that this is still part of this line. Also in your line numbers, you'll see a little dot here. That means this is all still part of line 57. Okay, but you'll see the little 2 spaces there. So that's what we do in settings, Softwrap hanging indent, right? And then tab length. For most of my projects, I like to use tab length of 4, especially if you're starting out. That's generally one of the better ones to choose. And what else do we want? Tab length 4. And then let's look at some of the packages. So let's click on packages, and we're going to go to bracket matcher. Okay, and we're going to click on settings here. Now bracket matcher, what this does is it highlights the matching bracket for any of these standard brackets that you use in coding, right? So if I had here, I have the opening parenthesis, and we see underlined the matching bracket associated with that is right there, right? But another thing that this does is if I type a bracket, it automatically creates the other one for me. Now I find this frustrating and annoying, so I like to turn that off. All right, so what we want to do is we can check highlight matching line number if we want. That will show us the line number where the matching bracket is. And then I want to uncheck autocomplete brackets. The autocomplete is what creates that second bracket for me, and I don't like that. So I go back here, and when I go select range, when I make one bracket, it doesn't make the other one for me. Okay, and that's just a preference thing. You can set that however you like. Let's go to another package, the white space package. All right, and we'll go off settings here, and there's a few things we want to do here. We want to ignore the white space on current line. We want to uncheck that. Okay. So what this package does is normally, if since we have show invisible on, we can see this. I'm going to add a bunch of white space at the end of the line, but when I save the file, it's going to remove all that because we don't need those extra that extra data in our file. It's just a waste, right? So the white space package does that for us automatically. Now normally if you have the setting ignore white space on current line, which is the default, then if I have white space on this line when I save, just because my cursor's on this line, it won't do that. And I find that frustrating as well. So these are just the common defaults that I like. And again, you can do whatever you like here. Let's go to one other package. AutoComplete Plus. There we go. Go to settings. AutoComplete Plus. This does a similar thing as the bracket matcher, except it. Oh no, actually this is something different. So as you type in code, let's say I have a variable up here. Oops. Now, as I want to print something out, I can start typing HELL, and this suggestion box comes in, and it's based on everything I've typed in the file. So it's suggesting, are you trying to say hello, right? And I can select that. Now, the way you select that, the most convenient way, you can do that with the pointer, which is not very convenient, but there's also a default where you can do that with tab or enter, right? It's not particularly always intuitive. So I use tab always, enter when suggestion explicitly selected. So this is the best setting. You can play around with these, but as far as I can tell, this is by far the best one. So you can select that. And then those are mostly the basic settings. There is a place to set the standard file endings. Let's see if we can find that real quick. The editor. Oh, well, it's not in there. But there is a way to set up the line endings to always be line feeds. You can search for that on your own, but that's important. I highly recommend you always use line feeds for all of your code. And then there might be a couple of these packages that we have installed. Let's check back on there and see which packages have been installed. Okay, they've all been installed there, so that's good. And so we can take a look at what these packages might do. So if I open up Atom, if I wanted to open a terminal in here, I can right click and I think we have to restart Atom for these packages to take effect. So I'm going to close Atom, and then I'm going to open Atom one more time. Okay, so it's going to load up with these new packages, and I can right click, and I have open terminal here, for example. Right, and that opens a terminal in this directory, which is user desktop, etc. Okay, and some of the packages that I installed had some dependencies, so that's what was installing there. All right, and those are the basic packages you're going to need. There's lots of interesting shortcuts. Some of the most useful shortcuts, one of the reasons I really like Atom is if you have your cursor on a particular line, you can hit Shift-Control-D to duplicate that line. And then you can also move lines up and down very easily. You press Control and then up arrow, and you see I'm moving this line of code up and down through the file very, very easily. So those are two very useful sort of shortcuts, and there's lots of different shortcuts. You can take a look at those on your own. But that is the basic setup and configuration of Atom text editor.